Let the massacre commence. Now is a great time to subscribe to the channel. Big Ten content every single day. Always crush that like button like Ohio State might crush Iowa. Look, this seems like a lopsided game on paper. When you look at Ohio State and the explosiveness that they play with, and you look at the struggles that Iowa has had on offense this year, this does not seem like a fair matchup. Despite even that Ohio State has been bitten by the injury bug at multiple positions. You look at wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba has been out really for a majority of the season since the Notre Dame game. You look at Travion Henderson and Mayan Williams at the running back position have been in and out of the lineup. And definitely you look at that secondary. Tanner McAllister, Denzel Burke has had injuries and has had an up and down season performance-wise on the season. Cameron Brown is back there as well, who's kind of been banged up a little bit. So this has been an Ohio State team that, you know, if a good team kind of comes in and plays them, they could maybe take advantage of these injuries, but it just hasn't happened. And the reason why Ohio State is still Ohio State, despite these injuries, is because they recruit at an elite level. Second team guys, third team guys would be first team guys on 90% of other college football programs. And that's why, despite the injuries, they still shouldn't have a problem with the Iowa Hawkeyes. Look, Iowa is struggling on offense, and what will Brian Ferentz do? Like, you can say what you want about Brian Ferentz right now, but in terms of personnel and what you got in coaching and on the field, I'm just not sure how much better Iowa's going to get. You know, every week I'm like, maybe this will be the week Keegan Johnson comes back. Maybe this will be the week where if he comes back, maybe that'll make the offense better together as a whole with a guy like him at wide receiver. But you know, the more weeks you get your hopes up, the more weeks you raise optimism, it just doesn't look like it's going to happen. One, it doesn't look like he's going to come back in the near future. And two, it just doesn't look like this offense is going to get a whole lot better. Look, let's look at a specific matchup why I think Iowa is really going to struggle against Ohio State, and it's in the trenches. Iowa's offensive line right now is not very good. This Iowa O-line has allowed 18 sacks, that's third most in the Big Ten Conference right now. When you look at a guy on Ohio State, look, they got a lot of guys up front in the defensive line that I think can wreak havoc, but I think Mike Hall Jr. is the guy that's going to have a fantastic day, and he's going to buy some real estate in the Iowa backfield because he's going to be living back there all afternoon long. Mike Hall Jr., 5th in the Big Ten tackles for loss, 3rd in the Big Ten right now in sacks. He's the guy. He is going to meet Spencer Petras at least a couple of times in this game. Now, what does Iowa have to do to have any semblance of a chance? Well, Iowa's got to try to play Iowa football. You got to try to pin them deep. You got to try to force a whole ton of turnovers because, let's be honest, your offense ain't going to get it done against Ohio State. Look, yeah, they've had injuries, as I mentioned, back there in the secondary. But this is an Iowa offense that is dead last in the Big Ten in passing offense. I think I saw a graphic somewhere that Spencer Petras was close to last in the country, I think, in passing efficiency and in other statistical categories in terms of throwing the football. Look, this is a dormant offense, and I just don't see him getting it together against Ohio State. Now, when you look at Ohio State and their offense going against Iowa's defense, that's the matchup that I think is really exciting to people, because when you look at Ohio State, they face some decent defenses. They faced Notre Dame. They faced Rutgers. Like, they faced decent defenses. But this is, I think, the best defense that the Ohio State offense will have faced all season long up to this point. And maybe, possibly, even throughout the entire season, I think Iowa's defense will be one of the top defenses that the Buckeyes will face. I'm very interested to see that matchup. I want to see Ohio State be physical. We know Ohio State can throw the ball for ages and ages and ages. We know they can be explosive. And even without Jackson Smith-Njigba, Iowa, despite having a pretty good secondary, they're not going to be able to match up with Emeka Egbuka and Julian Fleming and Marvin Harrison Jr. Look, they're probably, Ohio State is probably going to throw for 300 yards against this Iowa team. But I want to see Ohio State be physical, because right now, at Ohio State, you got this game against Iowa, you got Penn State coming up a little bit before that. But outside of those two games, I don't think you have a big challenge. I think this is an Ohio State team. If you learned anything from a year ago in that game in Ann Arbor, Michigan, you know that at some point in time you're going to have to be physical. They were physical against Notre Dame. They won a tough, grinded out type of game against the Irish to start the season. But, how is Notre Dame looking these days? Not that great. I want to see Ohio State be physical in some games. I want them to prove to, me, but who cares about me? But I want them to prove to themselves, I want them to prove to the country and their opponents coming up that this is a team that can run it down your throat. This is a team that can be physical, because you look at the way the University of Michigan is playing right now, and if you come into a game Thanksgiving weekend where you have to be physical with them, you want to be able to do that. Look, I know the coaches will never admit to looking ahead, but I think you've got to start preparing your team. You've got to say, we've got better talent on the schedule, no doubt about it, from here until the Michigan game. We need to work on some things to be able to get past the Michigan Wolverines, because Michigan's a really good team. They're getting better each and every single week. And Ohio State has to be ready. I think it starts with Iowa. Let's be physical against a physical team. Let's out Iowa. Let's run it down their throat. Who cares about Seth Benson? Who cares about Jack Campbell? I want them to go right at them. And I think Travion Henderson, this could be a big-time breakout game. Like I said, he's been a little bit banged up in and out of the lineup. Mayan Williams has stepped up, when Travion Henderson hasn't been in there. I think Travion Henderson could have a big-time game. I think Iowa's going to break out. Iowa. Iowa's not going to break out in this game. I think Ohio State is going to break out this game. They're going to prove to everybody just how good they are. And, man, for the Iowa Hawkeyes, this is tough. This is a tough situation going into Columbus, Ohio, the way your team has been playing. I don't know what else to say. I'm usually a pretty positive guy, and I usually want a pretty competitive Big Ten game, but I just don't see it. Like I said, the way Iowa stays in this game, punting and turnovers. You play Iowa football, maybe, just maybe, but that offense doesn't have what it takes. The line is not going to match up well against Ohio State's front. I'm sorry, but I could think that's just kind of the way it is. Leave your thoughts, comments below. What do you think? You think Iowa has the potential to pull the upset in Columbus, or is this Buckeyes all afternoon long? Leave your thoughts, predictions, comments below. Make sure you subscribe to Big Ten Ted. I'm Big Ten Ted, and we'll see you in the next one.